A year ago, I wrote my best-selling ebook, 7 Critical Resume Mistakes to Avoid. And so today I'm going to recap for you the quick overview of 7 critical resume mistakes to avoid. So the first one is you left out the basics. We're talking name, phone number, email, an appropriate email, and your LinkedIn profile. I also recommend you add your zip code because we do a lot of radius searching and recruiting, and if you're not in the area to be found, it will limit your chances of actually being discovered based on that. The second thing is that you had an objective statement. Objective statements went out about a decade ago, so if you have it on there, you need to cut it off. That's time to get rid of that one. You want to replace it with an executive or professional summary, also known as a value proposition. The third thing is you include unnecessary information, and almost everybody falls into this one. Unnecessary information can be, people will include their social security number, they'll put their picture, they'll include how many grandchildren they have, they include the dates of their graduation. Unless you've graduated in the last 2 years, just leave that off completely. They'll include things like references available upon request. That's kind of like a no-duh information. Leave anything off that doesn't actually provide value, because your resume should be seen as real estate. You want to make sure you use the space appropriately. Okay, the next thing is your resume is greater than 2 pages. So a lot of times I hear people, they got the advice in college, 1 page. Definitely, if you are more than entry level, have a 2-page resume, and unless you fall into having several peer-reviewed articles published, stick to a 2-page resume or less. The second page doesn't hardly ever get read, so there's no point in giving them a third. They're not going to read it, and you've created a whole bunch of content and wasted space and trees likely at some point to create that. So don't worry about the effort and intention of doing a 3rd page. Stick to 2 pages. Okay, the other thing is your resume is really difficult or unappealing to read. And what I mean by that is that there's a natural format of how people read resumes, and it starts kind of like a Z pattern. They go straight across the top, down, and then back over. So make sure that your information in those spaces looks like where it should be. So you should have your dates aligned to the right, and you should have your companies aligned to the left along with your titles. That's kind of the basics, but definitely keep following me if you want more on what's important when it comes to reading your resume. Stick to 1 or 2 fonts. Don't go crazy on italics or bolding, capitals. Definitely try to limit colors. I usually say if you go with anything, you may add navy, unless you're a design professional, and then you might want to showcase some things, but the goal is not a lot of times to use your resume to get the interview. That should be done through your networking, okay? So that's why, my computer just stopped here. Okay, the next thing is spell check. So did you use spell check? You might have failed if you used spell check. And a good example I have is somebody who was a night stalker. This is a long time ago. They were a night stalker, but they used S-T-A-L-K-E-R versus S-T-O-C-K-E-R. So it's some of those things where that would pass spell check. Get somebody's 2nd and 3rd set of eyes to read your resume. And then the 3rd most critical error that you can have is that you didn't use keywords. Keywords are so important for passing the applicant tracking system, and when the hiring manager or recruiter reviews it, you want to make sure that you have similarity between the job description and what you actually applied for, what your background is. If it's not similar, they're not going to call you. So make sure it looks the part, and that's the point about customizing your resume. So there are the 7 critical resume mistakes you can avoid right now.